Senator Keohokalole.
I'd like to make comments in support of SB 1334.
Please proceed.
I'd ask my colleagues for a little latitude because I'm going to make controversial statements, and I don't plan to speak after this. First, the Attorney General has stated that these lands, these Kakaʻako Makai lands that OHA owns, are Native Hawaiian trust assets. They are not public lands. They are Native Hawaiian trust fund lands that must be administered by the board of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs pursuant to their fiduciary responsibilities. So if we decide not to let this bill proceed, then OHA should consider monetizing this trust fund asset in accordance with their fiduciary responsibility to manage trust assets to their highest and best use. Secondly, I want to acknowledge that 15 years ago, the community came together to fight a really bad proposal in Kakaʻako Makai. They deserve credit for that. I'd like to note that the luxury housing across the street, I think, is shameful, especially taking into account the need for housing and the crisis situation that we have in this state. But the reason I support this bill is because we need housing for our residents, and I think we should do it there, in the urban core, near the jobs, infrastructure, and the rail line. And just for consistency, I have supported the construction of senior housing in Kāneʻohe to criticism, and I have supported the construction of affordable housing right in the middle of Kailua, near jobs, transit, and infrastructure, to really significant criticism. Because I think that we need housing for our people, because it's a crisis. And I think that's a controversy that we should be discussing and debating here openly. So the question is, if we're not going to build housing here in this urban area, and we're not going to build housing in planned communities, as noted earlier, which are bursting at the seams on the island of Oʻahu, and we're not going to build on ag land, and we're not going to build in the rural areas, because we're going to keep country, and we're not going to build in the conservation areas, then where? Always somewhere else. And I note that the reservations and the opposition of community members and individuals on every specific project that I've seen since I've been in office have all been noteworthy. But it's always somewhere else. And so to speak to credibility, you know, from my experience, we have no credibility in this body or in the state to the young families who constantly check Craigslist for rentals in my district and can't see any whole home rental offerings on the windward side for under $3,500 a month. Or the young families who are trying to figure out a way to put together a down payment on a $900,000 offering, of which at any given point there are less than 200 for sale on the island of Oʻahu. So 15 years ago, it was the right thing to do. I can agree to that. But today, with a projected 65,000 unit housing shortage, it may still be the right thing to do, but I don't think it's the equitable, fair, or just thing to do. Or to just keep saying build somewhere else. This in general has been our housing policy for the last 25 years. And we see the impacts. Multiple year population decline in Hawaii. And we're not losing snowbirds. Mark Zuckerberg is not crying about housing prices. These are my classmates, my friends, my family that are leaving. They are leaving because they have nowhere to go. I remember when I first ran for office in 2014, I spoke to a senior couple in Kāneʻohe, and they lamented to me really about how hurt they were, that the only time they ever saw their grandkids were on the holidays when they came back to visit. This is a couple that played by the rules. They worked hard their whole life, paid their taxes, and the benefit they get in their golden years is to not see their family because they moved away. Few of our social issues in Hawaii are not connected to the housing shortage. We know this. We know homelessness is. We know economic competitiveness and talent development is. The WAM Chair speaks about the brain drain all the time. And it's related to the cost of housing and the availability of housing. Right now, we are short police, teachers, and doctors, fundamental roles in our society. We cannot staff them. And when we ask them why they leave, it's because they cannot afford housing. There are many other reasons, and the conversion of intended affordable housing units to luxury or unaffordable areas housing, I already talked about. I support being aggressive to address those problems. That's why I support many of the innovative ideas and sometimes controversial ideas of the housing chair. But mainly, if we choose not to pursue this bill and bills like this, then we should be honest with our kids. The 12,000 of them that graduate from high school in Hawaii every year. And we should be honest to our young families. This place can and should be a place for housing, and we should figure out how to make sure local people actually live here. It's been done in other areas, and it's actually been done in places in Kakaʻako. But let's be honest. Let's be honest about our housing policy over the last 25 years. The net result is that in Hawaii, we have the equivalent of a one-child policy. We have not prepared a place for our children. So when we talk about preserving this area as a gathering place for the next generation, and I surfed there. I bodyboarded at Keoalo's when I was in college, high school, because I used to work across the street in a restaurant job. And I was a wall rat in Waikiki when I was in high school. When we talk about preserving this place as a gathering place for the next generation, who exactly are we preserving it for? The rich are already there. And we have not prepared a place for our children. So again, I think we should just be clear with our kids. If we are serious about this, then we should consider this bill. And if we are not, then we should tell them the truth, that it's in their best interest to leave. Because 12,000 of them a year graduate from high school. We have built over the last 25 years, nothing near the number of units to accommodate that growth. And so for that reason, I ask my colleagues to support this bill. Thank you.